Happy 2026! Let's talk movies. Okay, I know this is so late and I'm sorry about that, but I was busy with stuff the last month or so. I also forgot how to write videos. The Has Been video came out in December, but I wrote the thing in November, immediately after the show came out. So forgive me if I'm a little rusty. The good news is that I did manage to watch more videos from 2025 in January. So in a way, they do end up becoming part of the consideration for this list. I'll be honest, my list looked a lot different in December than it does now. But before that, what is there to comment on the state of movies this year? Honestly, not much. Last year I went on this spiel about how originality is dead and how we're only gonna get sequels, reboots and IP stuff for the next few years. But with the way the film scene was for this year, I don't think that's accurate anymore. A lot of good movies were original, fun, creative, and managed to get a lot of audiences interested in talking about them. And for the IP-based movies, those are givens. They're big names with big hype values, but they were unique enough to have their own fan bases, audiences, and discussions. That's been cool to experience. And in a bit of a shakeup from last year, this year, I do have some bad movies that I want to talk about. While last year's worst were mid, this year's worst is real bad, some of which you will not be surprised at. With that said, let's start positive with some of the best movies I watched this year. Instead of going straight to the top 5, I kinda want to talk about the movies that I really liked this year but didn't make the cut to being in my top 5. Because this year was really hard to choose. I have a lot of movies that I really liked, that I thought were great even, but if I didn't talk about them, I don't think I'll rest easy. So let's go through the list of movies that didn't really make the cut. Thunderbolts almost made it in the cut. It's been a while since I liked a Marvel Studios movie this much, and it's refreshing. I went in not knowing much about any of the main characters, but the writing and direction made me feel something for everyone. You know how hard that is when two of the leads have funny Russian accents for the whole movie? The marketing was also very appealing to me. Listing every major crew member from their work in more indie, artsy films is super cool, and it did drag me, someone who stopped caring about the MCU, back for this film. At its core, it's just a character drama in a superhero world, making the characters feel like real humans instead of being vehicles to introduce a certain idea or theme. And I like that. I like the more grounded feel it has. I like the message, I like the balance of serious drama with classic MCU humor, and I like the way it didn't try to be something it was not. It's just a bunch of B-listers teaming up and working through their shit. And I wouldn't have it any other way. K-pop Demon Hunters was another hard cut. I did like it a lot. And there's a lot of good things to talk about. The animation, the music, the vibes, the art, the characters, the humor, it's all very good. And I know it's been talked about to death online enough. But I do think that if you're not into K-pop, this will be a hard watch for you. And the messages and some of the story choices do feel a little juvenile. But hey, it knows what it is and it's not ashamed of it. If you vibe with it, good for you. If you don't, Although I do want to say, why is Golden the only song being performed everywhere? You have 3 other Huntrick songs being ignored for so long. I get that Golden is the most popular song, but switch it up a bit, guys. I'm sure what it sounds like would do well with a certain audience. Or just do the better song, how it's done. Wait, what? Who said that? Also, what about the Saja boys? I would kill to see a live performance of your idol, but I guess we can't have what we want, huh? Whatever, moving on. Superman is also another movie I'm leaving out. And this is the movie I don't feel bad about leaving on the cutting room floor. Do I dislike the movie? No, of course not. I love this movie and everything it did and offered to the table. The casting is so good, the direction is as always stellar, and it did make me interested in what the future holds for James Gunn's DCU. But 2 things. This, in my opinion, had to juggle being a Superman movie and an origin point for the DCU. There's so many moving parts, ideas, characters, and factions that are being introduced this early on that it felt overwhelming to me. Again, it does do its job of introducing me to the DCU really well. I'm excited to see what comes next. But I don't think this was a great Superman movie, using his cast of characters super well. Other than Lois, nobody else has anything to do. Compare that with something like My Adventures with Superman, which builds the trio up as a genuine trio of friends. Second of all, I think we've hit a point with James Gunn's style of writing and directing. So far, the introduction to the DCU has all been through his particular style of storytelling. And as much as I love the guy, his style does wear down on you after a while. My friend and I watched Peacemaker recently, and there are so many moments where we just sat back and sighed when jokes went on too long, or when a serious moment got undercut with a joke, or with a samey sounding needle drop. Dude, I get it, you're into 80s rock. Again, I don't think Gunn is a bad director, far from it. But when you have been seeing the same style of movie for the past year, you start to get burnt out. That's where I am at with Gunn. And with some interviews post-Superman, that's where he's at as well. Hi, Editing DJ here. I realized I forgot to mention this one particular clip that I was mentioning here. There was this one interview that James did where he mentioned that he wrote the scripts for Creature Commandos, Peacemaker Season 2, and Superman all in the same year, and that he was so burnt out, writing during his honeymoon and stuff. And it made me come to the conclusion that even he is kind of stretching himself a bit too thin, which is made even worse because there's a sequel for Superman that he already has written out, so I don't know. Again, if I'm wrong about this, I will retract my entire statement. You can ignore this entire part of the video. But yeah, I remember this clip somewhere. I just tried to find it for so long, but it's not there. I'm so sorry. But yeah, anyway, back to the video. I can't wait for other filmmakers to play with the blocks Gunn set up here, both for the world to progress and for some variety with tones, styles, and stories. And the final one is a surprise pick for me. We Can Save the World. And if you haven't heard of it, that's because it had a limited theatrical release here in Singapore. Something about me that I must make very clear is that I fucking dislike Singaporean films. Our country has a problem with sanitizing every piece of media that we consume, or making films predominantly for a Chinese audience. So there's just not much for me to enjoy out of all of them. When they're not being active propaganda pieces for the military, they're just boring, dull, toothless, and watered down to be as safe as possible. None of which I could say about We Can Save the World, which is so ambitious with its story and production design. The shoestring budget is very obvious, and it's clear that this is very much meant for the home audience. There's a scene later in the film that you really won't get if you're not from here. But you know what? That's okay. I respect the filmmakers for making something a bit more ambitious and out there. I respect the film for being nothing more than a weird, quirky, and fun thing to kick back and enjoy. I do want a lot more from it, but because of the aforementioned reasons, I don't think we're ever gonna get a local film super ambitious. So, it is what it is. Okay, that's where my honorable mentions end, and here are my top 5 actual movies of 2025. At number 5, we have Frankenstein. I was a little late to the party with this movie, but I really did want to watch it. I really liked the last iconic adaptation Guillermo del Toro made, so I only had high hopes for this movie. And after watching it, I fully see the hype. The production design, the artistry behind every set, costume, and makeup effect is so palpable. You can feel Del Toro's passion for the source material really shine through with every frame of this movie, and that's commendable. Oscar Isaac's take on Victor Frankenstein as this prideful mad scientist is so good, and I somewhat gel with his themes on being a father and about humanity. But he is absolutely overshadowed by Jacob Elordi as the creature, who gives such a moving and emotionally powerful performance as this undead monstrosity learning humanity. The parts where he interacts with Victor are equal parts beautiful and painful. Where I did suffer with this movie was with the first half. Isaac's performance is really good, don't get me wrong, but the movie took very long to get to the creature stuff. Nearly 90 minutes of this 150-minute movie are primarily focused on Victor's story, and while I do get how it's meant to contrast with the creature gaining humanity with Victor losing his, it could have been cut a tad to make room for the creature's story. His half feels a little rushed to me, and I wish I had more time with this journey. Maybe that's a taste thing, I don't know. Or maybe because the big old-timey vocabulary left me grasping to understand what the hell is going on, what the characters are about. I still don't get what Elizabeth's internal conflict is throughout, and I was left guessing from the visual imagery. Again, that could be because I'm dumb. But if you're not, give this a watch. Moving on to weapons. This is a super interesting one to talk about. It follows a very simple mystery setup. One night, all but one of the kids are missing from this one teacher's class. People are pointing fingers left and right as the teacher and other characters try to figure out what happened. My friend and I checked this movie out of pure curiosity. The marketing made it look super cool. And what we got was a relatively cool movie, but one that we had so many questions out of. I like the unconventional way the movie tells its story, focusing on different characters for 30 minutes, having them overlap with the previous character's plotline, and then continuing from there. It makes sense considering the director used to work in sketch comedy. The way things just flow and hand off from one another is quite pleasing. The mystery is also really good and leads to some solid moments of tension here and there. And the reveal that this is all some voodoo shit being done by this old woman is kinda good, leading to a really batshit insane climax. The characters are fine, they're not much to write home about. They're serviceable, and that's pretty much it. I don't find myself investing or caring in what was happening outside of the central mystery. One of the characters has completely nothing to do with the actual narrative until one small scene where it's kinda sorta connected. But you could've just cut this part out and I would've been fine. It's weird for sure, and weird horror movies like this should be respected and encouraged. But I kinda wanted more from the weird and wacky shit this movie throws. But check out the marketing. Is it appealing to you? Then go for it. Moving on to another horror movie that's also weird but does it slightly better in my opinion is Sinners. People know Ryan Coogler from his work on the Black Panther films, or Creed. Whatever it is, people were all interested to see what an original film from him would look like. And what we got was something deeply rich, off-putting, funny, and badass. Sinners is a weird film to describe and label. It's about 1930s racism and the struggles of black people under the Jim Crow era. It's about a guy's aura being too strong that it attracts creatures of hell. That's not a joke, by the way. It's a metaphor for assimilation and the loss of culture when moving into a new area. It's whatever you can infer from the movie itself, and I like it like that. To me, it's a character drama, which turns into a vampire survival thriller, into an action movie against some Klansmen, and all carried by the cast. Michael B. Jordan rules in the double role, playing twins with their own distinct personalities, vibes, ideologies, and demeanors, and you almost forget that these are two characters being played by the same actor. With him is surprise debutant Miles Catton as Sammy, the preacher's son with a talent for having immense aura as a musician. He is so good in the role that I am surprised that he wasn't nominated for an Academy Award. Look, Delroy Lindo was also good in the role, but he didn't have much of a screen presence or dynamic characterization as Miles. I've read this is more of a legacy win similar to Jamie Lee a couple years ago, so whatever. And Jack O'Connell as this Irish vampire meant as a metaphor for the loss of culture and identity in yesteryear is stellar. Speaking of music, the score and soundtrack are phenomenal. Whoa, Ludwig Göransson made a good score for a feature film. What a shocker, I know. But this just oozes beauty, culture, and passion in ways that his previous works rarely do. Except for maybe the Oppenheimer soundtrack? And of course, the direction. The pacing is excellent, the way scenes flow into each other are awesome, and of course the big scene where Sammy's music brings history colliding into one another is amazing. The way he plays with aspect ratios are so nice. I like when movies and TV shows have dynamic aspect ratios baked into even their digital copies. And no, having some scenes cutting to IMAX in MCU movies doesn't count for me. I do think that this movie does underutilize its characters a tad. Smoke and Stack both have romantic interests, but both of them are footnotes in the overall narrative, especially Haley Steinfeld's character. There are hints that she has some history with one of the twins, but they just stay as hints and ultimately don't really matter. And I guess it does go a little hard on the sexual aspects. There's moments and jokes about oral, and on rewatches they're a little I guess. Like based as hell that Ryan uses the blank check to just be freaky with it, but what's the point? This could be a me issue. The first time I watched through it, I laughed at those scenes, and rewatches just made me cringe a little. Otherwise, this movie holds up expertly well. I will be looping I Lied to You on repeat after this video is released, and judging by the 16 Oscar noms, it is probably gonna sweep a few. Studios should just give Coogler the freedom to make whatever wacky shit he wants to, if this is what he does. At number 2, we have Final Destination 6. Lots of horror movies this year, huh? Bet you weren't expecting this to make it. Okay, let me explain. I've had a complicated relationship with the Final Destination series. When I was 12, my dad sat us down and forced us to watch Final Destination 5. It scarred my sister and I so bad that we ended up screaming so much and watching half the movie on mute. I remember this was during the LASIK scene. Yeah, it was a LASIK scene. And over the next several years, I slowly started watching the previous movies in the series. I found 3 the most fun out of all of them, and I noticed 4 was a bit try-hard edgy with the gore and attitude, and only last year I actually went back and revisited FD5 and the very first one. And you know what? I enjoyed them both a lot more than I expected. 5 suffers from being painfully obvious that it was made for 3D screens, so watching it at home felt a little tacky. But after watching the first one, I understood what was so captivating about this series in the first place. It's marketed as a bloody horror movie, but to me, it's just an edgy dark comedy. Everyone are jerks and they die in excessively gory and insane ways, but you never know how. That's the fun, something that the sequels rarely got right. What about FT6 then? It's pretty clear that the directors behind this film love and understand the appeal of the original so well. The characters are all edgelords out of a 90s movie, the set pieces are uniquely creative, and the executions are so well done. The visual effects are so good, and the story focusing on family and legacy is so neat. Oh, and the Tony Todd cameo too. Having that be his final big role before his death, and his farewell message being a poignant speech on the beauty of life, is such a sweet move. See, the directors really do care about this series, and that alone is worth praising to the high heavens. I'm not even into excessive gore in my movies. My friends call it gore slop, but this brings the series back to its darkly funny nu metal roots, and if this is what the series is going to be, I'm all for it. And for my best movie of the year, what's it gonna be? Ooh, Wake Up Dead Man. Where do I even begin with this movie? I have enjoyed the last couple of Benoit Blanc movies, but this one, whew, it is a more straightforward film than the last two, but I don't mind that because the movie looks so damn good. The gothic production design, the harsh dynamic lighting giving everything an ethereal glow, and the cinematography all feel like a less quirky Wes Anderson film. And I mean that as a massive compliment. The mysteries are a little more convoluted than the last two, but I didn't really care because I was so invested in the main character's journey. He's this young priest sent to improve this church where the reverend is using religion to spread his own hateful politics. Pretty timely, don't you say? The ensemble cast isn't that interesting as compared to his previous two movies. Even now, I don't remember anything about them, except for the Josh Brolin priest. But again, it doesn't matter. The story isn't about the ensemble or how they affect the mystery in the way the last two were. It's about this young priest finding purpose in what he does, leading to some of the most emotional, beautiful moments in this movie. And the way the tones switch back and forth between comedy and the more somber beats got to me so well. Most people would consider this a downgrade from the last two, but I think this is the most artistically rich in the trilogy thus far. The story doesn't feel like a rich people are dumb angle, it feels more personal. You can really understand Rian Johnson's complicated feelings on religion and religious fanaticism throughout the well-paced 150-minute runtime. But I also get how people think this is a downgrade. For a series very focused on the ensemble, this plays it differently. And I don't know, that just works for me. I don't really have a lot to say. It's gorgeous, it's heartwarming, it's super sweet and mature, and it's quite timely to what's going on. The fact that this didn't get an Oscar nomination for cinematography or production design was a little annoying, but whatever. I'm happy calling this my best movie of 2025. Alright, okay. Now, with the bad shit. To be honest, I don't really have a lot of bad movies that I watched this year. All the bad movies I did watch are more meh in retrospect. Let's address the elephant in the room. I didn't make a video on the FNAF 2 movie because I kinda agree with the majority on this. There is a lot to love in the production design, the performances, the VFX, but the writing is somehow worse than the first. But then again, when has Scott Cawthon ever been a decent writer? So there's nothing super interesting to discuss about that movie. It's clear that Scott and Jason are making this series for the Fazbear heads, and while I do get the it's for the fans counterpoint to any criticism for the movie, we do deserve better, do we not? That's a discussion for another time. Along with FNAF 2, I was considering Tron Ares and Captain America Brave New World for this list, but other than the obvious cast blunders, the movies themselves were just okay. I wasn't really offended by either of them, and I don't really care about spending my time and yours talking about movies that I just feel okay about. The worst this year, I made sure I really have something to say about them, and I come with 3 of the worst movies of the year in my opinion. Ready? At the third worst, we have Until Dawn. I have fond memories of the game from watching Game Theory and Markiplier play it.
I'm drawing the line in the sand. No! I'm gonna play through the whole fucking game again because no!
I like the teen horror genre being a story you can reshape with your own actions or inaction. I remember it was punishing as hell. Miss a few QTEs and someone fucking dies? Pretty neat. So, hearing there was a film adaptation helmed by critically acclaimed director David F. Sandberg was exciting. What would they do with this unique concept and the themes from the game? Nothing, surprisingly, because the movie we got was kinda nothing. Sandberg is a really good director, and there are a lot of great moments out of this movie. Similar to FD6, I am a sucker for practical gore effects, and this movie has that in spades. But other than the stylistic choices, I think this completely doesn't understand the point of the game. Is that a bold statement to make as someone who hasn't played the game? I don't know, but okay, let me try to explain to the best of my ability. This movie is set in one major location. It's a house rigged to kill the main characters, and then the cycle resets. 13 loops and the main characters will permanently turn into Wendigos, the creatures mentioned in the original game. The goal? Survive until dawn. Whoa, that's the name of the movie. Later on, it turns out that the traps rigged to kill the main characters are all constructs of one of the lead's anxieties and fears, in a sort of Silent Hill thing. It's implied that the events of the game are all constructs of Josh's anxieties with this logic. Cute Easter egg, by the way. But I don't think that's what people liked about the game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the original Until Dawn chock full of folklore, prophecies, how small things you do impact things later down the line? The butterfly effect is a massive part of the whole mythos of the game, so seeing no mention of that in the adaptation is a little odd. To be honest, I do feel for the writers. The original game is an 8 to 10 hour movie, so they had to tell a completely different story. But a different story divorced from the themes, mythos, and ideas of the original game, taking only some elements of its folklore in the most superficial way possible? It feels like the writers don't really understand what made the original Until Dawn really special, and just thought it would be fine if you have Peter Stormare, who's a returning actor from the game, and Wendigos to make an Until Dawn movie. Not only that, as a movie, it also sucks. The main characters are all boring and uninteresting, and I didn't really bother with any of their journeys. Did they even have journeys to begin with? I don't know, but when you can't care about the main characters, how do you expect me to care about anything in this movie at all? I want to say so much more, but I think this can be its own video. I finally bought the original game months ago, but have never gotten around to playing it, so I hope I can get something out soon. No promises though. At second worst, we have the Minecraft movie. Look, I've already said my piece with the movie within the first week of its release. It's annoying, it's very reliant on Jack Black's charisma to make you laugh, the main characters are boring and predictable, there's not much of dramatic heart to latch onto, and it hasn't really stood the test of time. Do people still talk about the Minecraft movie? Despite the fact that we got a meme-along version a couple of months later, despite the insanity that happened during screenings. We're getting a sequel though. Yay, can't wait for it to be even more Zuma brain rotty. Whatever, moving on. Now, the worst of 2025 by far. What's it gonna be? It's Snow White. Didn't expect this, huh? My girlfriend and I watched this movie before it came out on Disney+. How do we do that? Don't worry about it. We had just watched the 1937 one, and she wanted to compare it and the 2025 one. Let it be known, I had no hopes with this film. The marketing and PR for this movie sucked, with both their leads being so disgusted by the original. Obviously, I don't think it's on them, they were probably fed these talking points by the producers. It also just so happens that their leads are vocally on opposing sides of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and Rachel cursed out Trump when he was elected in 2024. So no matter what you believed in, nobody wanted to support this movie. Also, for a movie called Snow White, they cast a non-white actress for the role. This isn't like Little Mermaid, where color swapping characters doesn't matter much to the overall story. The main character got her name because she's white. Some people don't mind that, other people do. For me, I was specifically worried because the film was directed by Mark Webb, the guy who made Gifted, a movie I adore, and also the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man duology. He is not really known for some good direction, but whatever. Keep an open mind and give this movie a watch. I'm someone who doesn't care about actors' controversies. I know how they feel about the original, I know what Gal Gadot's acting range is, and I know that Rachel Zegler is a decent actor. All I'm asking for is a decent movie. What I got was so much worse. Dear God, this movie was so boring in all the ways that mattered. The songs are all so overproduced and either so bland or really unnecessary. It looks like shit. The color grading is so drab and dull, lacking the vibrant look the original has. The costumes look so cheap, like they're repurposed Halloween costumes. I get that you want to keep the original costumes, but if you're gonna modernize everything, why not modernize this too? Oh, but bad acting, Gal Gadot acting bad. What if I told you that nobody gives a good performance? Not even our Academy Award winner Rachel Zegler over here. I don't know what it is about her, but every line she says in the movie comes across as so condescending and snarky. It could be the script, could be the direction, I really can't tell. But they make her super capable, not following any real arc of her own, and constantly talking down to everyone and everything that she meets. A trope that is definitely not tied at all. Speaking of, holy shit, those dwarves look awful! What the hell happened? Why did you make them look like this? I don't get it at all! And you know what's the biggest issue I have with this movie? I actually see things that do work. There's a subplot where Snow White joins a rebellion against the Queen's tyranny that I wouldn't mind seeing a whole spin-off of. The Queen's powers drawing from the mirror and her being a dictator because she thinks that's better than democracy is super fucked, and again, something I wouldn't mind seeing more of. There's a lot of interesting fantasy series ideas buried in this awful pile, but because of the horrible pacing, you don't really get to see more of the new interesting parts. So again, what is the point? I don't know, man. This was already gonna be the worst movie, but I didn't expect it to piss me off this much with how wasted its ideas were and how sloppy the production was on every front. Why is Mark Platt in charge of every big remake? Please, someone dethrone him at this point. And there you go. Those were my best and worst of last year. What were yours? Again, sorry this video took so long, I'm still trying to get back in the swing of things. Some cool shows coming up, huh? Can't wait to talk about those soon. Iron Lung looks pretty cool now. Thanks for watching.